Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the third Ask the Expert of 2026. We're going to be looking today at turning data into insights. So I'm Richard, the Head of Service Management here at Tiger.
And I'm Matt Ringsell. I'm the Technical Product Lead here at Tiger.
So a big welcome to everyone that's joined us today. We've got lots of our customers and partners here. As I've said in the chat there, if there's any questions, any comments, anything you want to know as we're going through, put it in the chat. I am monitoring. If we can't answer it today, we will come back to you after the session. But yeah, welcome and thank you for joining us today. So a couple of little extra bits we're going to talk about first. So first one is our Get Started. So we've done a lot of work on our Get Started. There's a lot of documentation, however you want to consume that. We've got full manuals that you can read through. We've got lots of small short training videos. We've also got all of our Ask the Experts. So if there's one you think, oh, I'm sure they did an Ask the Experts on that, you've got it there. You can go and have a look. But yeah, it's just tiger.io/get-started. Go in, have a look. Lots of great material on there. Equally, if there's anything you think's missing, you can drop us an email to customer success at tiger.io and we will create the content for you. Yeah, so it's there. Use it. And anything missing, let us know. Okay, and the next thing I want to talk about today is actually something else that we're going to do, a little bit of an extension almost to these Ask the Expert sessions. So we're going to start a new feature called the Prism Lounge. So this will be with our customer success manager, Sharon. So what we're going to do, and we're going to start this in August, and we'll do a little campaign. So we'll get you some information out with the meeting invite and things like that. The idea is it's a drop-in session. So if there's anything that you're struggling with in Prism, you're trying to create a report, you're trying to get permissions set on a user, something like that, and you're just not quite sure how to do it, or it doesn't look right, but it's not a fault. It's just, I'm not sure. We're going to do these drop-in sessions once a fortnight for an hour. You just join in, ask your question. If it's private, confidential, we will run breakout sessions from them as well. But yeah, that's going to be upcoming. So watch out for the invites for those as well. And then final little bit of admin that we like to talk about before we actually go into the topics for today. So your feedback matters is the simple headline here, right? We love doing these Ask the Expert sessions, but we want to make sure that they're what you want to see as well. So you can put it in the chat, join a session. When the session ends, you get asked for a feedback survey. Obviously, yeah, we love to hear your ratings and your feedbacks. But if there's a specific topic you want to see, do pop it in the feedback form and we will include it. We're just starting to plan next year's sessions. We're very organised. But yeah, we will absolutely love to include the topics that you want to hear about. So please do let us know.
Yeah, even if it's some more advanced parts of, we've already covered, maybe, you want to go a little bit more deeper into it. We just need to know what you want to see within Prism and how, we can try and help you with Prism to get what you need out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And Matt's right. I mean, if you feel it's a very specific scenario to you, that's okay. We don't have to say who asked, but we can cover it in that very specific scenario to you as an example.
Yeah. And it is important that we get this feedback to make sure that, we're on the right track to delivering what you need, but it's important that we get that from you guys.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah. All right. So let's get into today's Ask the Expert. So today's topic, so we're just going to do a few slides first, just to give a little bit of groundwork and understanding before we go into the last demo, into the live demo. So Matt, over to you. We're going to start with quick search.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. So on to what we're going to cover first. So we're going to talk about quick search. Now, quick search is a very new feature that's been added into Tiger Prism. So at the moment, some of you won't have this available to you. At the end, if it's something that you would like to have added onto your Tiger system, you can either raise a ticket with a support desk, and what we'll do is we individually will deal with that part. With hosted, that's fairly straightforward of how we can get that onto your system. With on-premise customers, obviously it's a little bit more difficult, but again, we're going to have these discussions with you if it's something that you want to have added to your system.
Yeah.
So what is quick search? it's exactly as it says. It's a way of quickly searching for an employee, an endpoint. It's very simple to understand. You can look at itemized data, export data, and there's a graphical part so you can see what's going on. So as we go through this, I'll show you it, and hopefully by the end of it, you'll be able to see what you can do with the quick search.
Yeah, and I think when we first started talking about this, we kind of had one of our customers say, well, we want AI within Tiger Prism. And actually what it transpired is what they really wanted was a deeper level of intelligence where you've got that one search function. So you can put in a name or a phone number or, and that's what we've built here. Just to give you that kind of single point of truth, I guess is the best way of describing it.
Yeah, I mean, look, some people find analytics a bit too much sometimes, when all you want to do is quickly search for an extension. So somebody's come to you, they've raised the ticket to your help desk to go, I just need to see all calls for extension 1, 2, 3, 4.
Or incoming calls from a specific number, for example. We know a lot of our customers use it as a compliance tool. So if you've got a customer that says, I've phoned you 8 times, well, you can now just type their phone number in. It's going to pull that back for you quickly and easily without having to go through different modules of Prism.
Yeah. And if you don't have the quick search, what we are going to cover in one of the other slides in a minute is the itemized call report, which basically will work in the same way as the quick search, just got a couple of extra clicks to go through and get the same level of information out.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Matt. So the next thing is directory search.
Yes, so I'm not sure many people use the directory search. So what this is basically a grid search that allows you to search your Tiger directory to look for people, look for your custom fields, and allow you to export this data so you can quickly see what's in your directory, or you can export it to add additional information maybe to another app. The data's here, so what I'm going to do is go through it and show you how it works and how you can get the data out. And then finally, we're going to go and talk about the itemized call detail report. Okay, so this again will work in sort of tandem with the quick search for the people who don't have it, or if you're looking for scheduling stuff, etc., or doing compliance requests and you need to give it as a PDF or with a bit more extra information that's not available in the quick search, this is where your go-to place should be to go and get it. And again, this isn't replacing what you can do in analytics. It's explaining what the difference is between the two, and how you can quickly get the data out from the system without having to drag columns in and etc. from here. So hopefully by the end of it, you would have learned a lot more about the call itemization reports.
Okay, let's go into the live demo then, Matt.
Yeah. If by magic, we should have a Prism screen. So you're all familiar, hopefully, with the Prism screen here. Now, we are going to start then with a quick search. And there is one sort of caveat around the quick search at the moment. This is only available to admins at the moment, okay? So if it's something that, you go, right, well, I don't have that quick search function, I'm not an admin, then what we can do is talk about what you would be using it for, etc. as well. So the way the quick search works is simply you click in the search button and you simply then search what you're looking for. So if I was to do a search for 2021, because it's the extension number that I want to look for, it will then come up with anything that contains the word 2021. So it comes up with my extension number and a call queue here as well. So I'm just going to click on the extension number here, just to give you an idea of what it will look like. So what it does is it then gives us an overview of the number I search for. So it tells me the name, the label, which department it's in, which source it's on. If it's on multiple trees, it will show you all the trees here. And then you can simply come over to the bottom here and say, well, what date range am I looking for data for that phone? So I could say, right, let's go May for that phone. And there you go. I've got all the stats I need to look for now. How many incoming calls, how many outgoing calls, and how many internal calls that number has made, received, here.
So it's a very quick snapshot.
Snapshot of what you're looking for. So if someone really is just looking for high level, has this phone been used in the last month or in May? You can go, yeah, look, here's all the call out bits, and then some insights into it. So how many calls they've had, total talk time, the average talk time, and the total cost here. So that is £31. There's just 4 decimal places at the end here. So again, great. Maybe that's all that you need to give them. And again, you've done that in 2 clicks. Okay, so you've clicked up here, you've typed the number in, and you've changed the date. Then you've got what you needed here much quicker.
And Matt, you mentioned obviously it's only available to administrators at the moment.
Yeah.
I think it's just point of note for people, this searches the entire database is the challenge. Yeah. And of course, administrators have access to all data within Prism.
Yeah.
I just think if you're looking at this and thinking, God, so many people, I'd love to have access to this, just be conscious you've got permissions in place to stop them seeing certain information. If you promote them to administrator, you're taking away that restriction.
Yeah. But again, we want to talk to you about this. So if you want it so it does have restrictions on, let's talk about it with you guys of how we can implement that.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah, it's all within the art of the possible.
Yeah.
But it's a lot more development, and we don't know how much use this is going to see yet. So yeah, if we get the feedback that everyone loves it and they're using it every day, then absolutely we're prepared to go further with
it. So we got a usage summary, and then simply there's an itemized usage. So what this does is contains then all of those itemized calls that sit behind there. So again, it will have a basic set of columns. You can't add or remove any columns. It is a basic set. So you'll have the date, time, type of call, numbers dialed, the names if they're available, talk time, ring time, costs, etc. You have the ability to sort on these columns. So if I'm looking for the person's most expensive call, so I can see £3 here, I've got that.
And obviously, let's not forget the burger button, where we can still do the cradle to grave, look at the call.
Yep, so if you do want to look at in more detail about a specific call for that user, you still do have the ability to come in here and look at the call in more detail, okay? Now, obviously, this screen will differ depending on what you're looking at. So if you're searching for a WebEx user, the screen will be different. If you're searching for a Teams user, again, the screen will be different on here. So I will show you the difference when we get there.
And the call may have come through a distribution system of some sort. That might generate more legs. I mean, This is a very simple call. Obviously, they dialed the direct number, they've answered it.
Yeah. Now, if I want to export this data, so I want to provide them their itemized usage over the date period we've selected. And just also to be clear on here, there is no specific dates. They are all quick dates just to make everything fast, okay? So everything in here is designed to be fast, so you can only choose quick dates. There's no way of saying I want all calls between, 10 and 11 on the 6th of June, okay? That's just not possible. It is a quick date.
Well, you can ask for the year, you can sort by date and time.
Yeah, that's it. Take the day, the month, or the week, or then you can, you can come over to here, and then you can export the itemized data to Excel or to CSV. And by clicking on this button, it will simply then download it and put it in your downloads over here, and you can open this up as well. Okay, so I did a search at the top here for a user, a phone number. What if I want to do a search for a user? So I can do a search for Matt, and let's go and find all the Matts that are available in my system. So you can see in here, it's coming up, it's doing a wildcard search for anybody that contains the word Matt. And I'm going, I want to go and look at this Matt here. So I'm going to pick on an employee. So I can come into here and I can select Matt. Now the difference of going in from a phone to an employee is you'll get an extra column when you're in an employee to see all of the devices that are owned by that user. Okay, so I've got my Teams account, I've got my mobile account, and I've got my PABX data here as well, so from my phone system. Again, I'm going to change my date over here. I'm going to look at May. So for my May Teams here, when you're on a Teams one, it will give you a breakdown of how many calls I've taken from a queue. how many peer-to-peer calls where I'm the internal, peer-to-peer external, group calls where everybody's internal, and group calls where it's just internal people here. So you can see the differences over here, and it gives me a breakdown of what type of calls I'm making, as well as, how many meetings, how many calls went to voicemail, how many of my voice calls I've made, how many videos, how many of those sessions I did screen sharing in. Okay, so again, lots of really useful information. You can go, right, I'm just going to take a screenshot of that, attach it, pass it back. As I did mention, when you click on the burger button, some of these calls here, so all your itemized calls here, it will be a different breakdown of the call, the screen that you'll see. So you'll be looking at a screen that looks like this compared to when you look at the voice one, it will be a slightly different layout.
I think the nice thing with this is obviously what it's doing is it's linking you basically back in to the screen where you would normally see that. So it's almost like a shortcut as well, right?
Yeah.
Rather than going through the different menus on the front screen, yeah, it's a shortcut.
And again, that's my Teams. I may want to look at my mobile calls for that user. So I can come in here and I can have a look at the mobile calls, or I can look at the, the PBX calls that that user has made as well.
You mentioned mobile calls. We're actually doing that on the next Ask the Expert, where we're talking about importing mobile bills and the benefit of that as well. So yeah, it is a feature that we can offer.
Yeah, so yeah, if we want to import them, we can obviously bring that in. So again, if you want to look at the user's details, there is a link as well on the top right that will take you to here, so you can go and see all of the additional details about that employee. So what I'll do is just show you the difference as well. Let's say if I do a search for Matilda, over here, Matilda Reinbeck. So this is a WebEx user, okay? So it could be that you want to look at WebEx calls for a person as well. So again, it's all available. You can do a search for, all the different types of endpoints that are available. So you can see all the different types of calls on their WebEx account, and you'll be able to see all the itemized parts here. So again, just a really quick way of getting data out of the system to, fulfill tickets from here.
And obviously, I mean, how many times in the telephony space do you get that question from someone's manager? Are they using their phone? Are they using that service? And if it's about an individual rather than a group, this is fantastic for that, right?
Exactly, yeah. So a commonplace, we see it a lot with NHS trusts and stuff, where they'll get requests that just want to see what's happened on that extension number. Very quick way of now of getting that information back without, as I said, some people aren't particularly that strong with analytics, so this replaces that whole dragging stuff in and putting in, making sure you've got the ands and the ors right.
Your bill was correct as it is now.
Correct. So so this just that is the replacement for that part of it.
Okay, right. Thank you, Matt. Let's go on and look at directory searching then, please.
So what is directory search? So directory search looks at what you've had configured in your department. And again, the department tree information that's in here will be either manually maintained by you, or it will be automatically updated by our cube system that runs in the background and automatically updates it. So what does the directory search do? Well, it allows you to search by endpoint or by what we call directory view here. So I'm going to start by looking at our endpoint view. So what this means is that this view is endpoint centric. So everything here starts with the endpoint, and then you can apply additional columns, etc. over here.
So in the simplest sense, this is anything that we've loaded data into Prism for.
Correct, yeah. So any phone numbers that we've learned, it doesn't necessarily have to have a tree path. It doesn't need to be in your directory. This is endpoint centric. So all of your endpoints, and then any additional information that we have about the endpoint here. So to add a column in here, so say I want to find out more information, if I click on the little I in the bottom right-hand corner here, I can then add additional columns about that phone number. So it could be that I want the level 1, the level 2, or the level 3 of the department they're in. Maybe I want to know what region, what country group they're in here. These are all custom fields here. So, if we've got custom fields with their call queue or their voicemail type, you can add all of these columns in here.
And I notice obviously on the columns, unlike our quick search, we've got a filter button there.
Yep. So on here, you can filter on an individual column. So you could say, right, I'm only interested in where level 1 is not blank, for example. So this is a good use of the column search. So you can say, right, give me everything in here where the column is not blank. And here you go. It will then go through and search that particular column and give me all the information here. It will then tell me all of the columns. And then I can export over here as well, because I may want to, move this onto a slightly different system.
And I saw a really good example there where you had unknown department, for example, as the organisation group.
Yeah.
This is a great quick search tool where actually you could put the filter on where it's an unknown department.
Yeah.
Why is that extension not correctly allocated in your directory? So it can be used to help strengthen your directory in a very quick, simple way.
Yeah, and this is the thing, is you can get the information then out in Excel to try and then work out more. So it's more difficult when you're looking as a tree in Prism. So if you're going into the directory and you're looking at it going, right, click down, click down, click down. Having this then as an export allows you then to, start to work on the data. So we do have a quick filter at the top here as well. So the quick filter just allows you to quick search across all columns, okay? So it doesn't matter which column you've got set on the screen. This search here searches across all columns that you have selected.
But obviously, I think it's worth noting it doesn't take any filters off the columns you've already put on.
No, it just searches across all the columns that you've got selected in the bottom window here. You can reorder your columns. It is a simple drag and drop, and this will remember the column selection when you next come back into the screen, okay? And it is specific to your login, okay? So whatever you do to this screen does not affect any other user on the system. It's all tied to your user. So when I come back into here, it will be exactly as I left it.
So the columns you added as well as the order?
Yep, the order, the columns I added, unless you want to reset them. And then there is a reset button down here, which will then reset everything back to the, we'll call it factory defaults.
Yeah.
Okay, in here for you as well. So you do have the ability to reset, add,
go back in. And obviously, I think the other thing is, because it's forgotten at times, you can turn some of these columns off as well.
Yeah.
The same way you can turn them on. If you actually only want 2 columns, which is the extension number and do we know what department it's from?
Yeah.
Just have those 2 columns if that's all you need.
Yeah. And then, as I said, exporting it to then do some work externally to then add more value back into Tiger by going off and fixing things, because it could be you export it from here, go into your Azure AD or your Active Directory and actually go and fix some things in here. Okay. Yeah. A lot of the things that we notice when we're doing setups and when we're looking at people's data, spelling mistakes and things like that, you could get a list of all your spelling mistakes from in here where you've gone through and gone, oh yeah, look, I can search for a department where it's spelled 3 or 4 times, slightly different wording on it, and and I can realign it to make it all the same. So that's the endpoint view where it's endpoint centric. It could be you want it by the directory view, so it's directory centric. So what this means is it will only contain directory information and then the phone numbers that are assigned in here. So
and Matt, I know we've covered directories before, but can you just explain a little bit more what directory centric is? Where's that driven from?
Sure. So the directory is driven by either, I said, manually you creating it. So what a directory is, so if I take it out of here and just go into what we call the directory. So it's under the enterprise and into here, and you've got your departments, and this is the tree version of what we just looked at. So in here, you'll have all the trees here on the left-hand side, And then when you go into a department, you'll have all the phones in here. So it's just what we were looking at on the other screen is just a line by line of what you're seeing here on the screen.
And we're taking this from a connector that the customers provided us, right?
Correct. Yeah. So we connect it either with Cube to a source to go and get this information, whether this be Azure AD, it could be your phone system we connect to.
You might send us a file.
Yeah, it could even be a spreadsheet. So it may be, you know, we did a one-off import into your system when we did the installation. You could then export it from what we just looked at, do all your updates and provide us an update in Excel file that we can then re-import back into the system to make all your moves and changes for you as well.
I think that's a fair point, actually. I mean, we know that with some customers, that's what they did. They got one directory.
Yeah.
It's something that we do well, and we actually automate with the use of our in-house Cube tool.
Yeah.
You know, we allow flat files, as I call them, to be uploaded to a specific SFTP location.
Mm-hmm.
You can do that daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, however often you want, and we will go and retrieve the file and we will update your directory for you. Basically, that's obviously for hosted. On-premise, slightly different, but the same still largely. You would just put it in a different location.
Yeah, and if it is that, you know, on your on-premise system that, you know, it is being manually updated and you need to make a massive amount of changes, you could use directory search. You could do a one-off export. You can do it all in Excel and then just tell us that, you know, you need to then re-import this back over the top. And we can work with you to do that. So rather than sitting in here and going, right, I need to move this extension to here, and, you know, I need to then go and move this one to there, and, you know, taking time to go through and do it. If you've got hundreds of changes that need to be made, that may be the quickest route.
Yeah. And look, sorry, I know we're here to talk about directory, about searching, about getting to data in Prism today, but I just think it's worth mentioning because it's quite a complex area, directories, and how we and building it and the information we need to help you build it. And
and as we go into the next part, when we're, you know, looking at the call information, etc., you'll see how that is very much tied to what you're seeing on the screen as well. So the difference being between when you're looking at your dashboards or your reports, not so much the quick search because it doesn't really use the directory as well, but definitely with dashboards and reports and exports as well, it's relying on this data to tell us what department they're in. So when you go into a report or into a dashboard, you're using this data to add context. So what you're looking at is if I want to run a report on service management, I can choose that department and it's gathered all that information from the source, and it then combines all the information into the service management and lists all the endpoints, etc. here to give you totals for that department. Whereas analytics doesn't use the directory, it's just a free search throughout the entire database.
Okay, thank you. So let's go back to directory search. I just think it's good to have a little bit more base knowledge sometimes.
Sure. So again, you've got the two parts here that allow you to do your searching and then your exporting up the top here. So whatever you've got selected on the screen is what gets exported. So if you do want to do, as Richard said, you want to go and look at all your unknown ones that are in here, you can go and select those, right click, or sorry, click on the three dots here and click export to Excel, and that will then export the 73 rows that you've got selected on the screen. Okay, so what we're going to now move on to is how do we get data out of the system in an itemized way. So we looked at the quick search, and this is really just to work in parallel with this. So if you don't have it, you can get a very similar feature out of what you've already got. Everyone will have access to this report that has Prism. It's been there since day one. So let's go and have a look at this report, how it works, and how you get the data out. So I'm going to give you a quick tip. When you come on to reports, and this is the same for dashboards as well, I have some quick links that allow me to quickly get to these reports. So ones that I use commonly. So I commonly use the detail and call information. So when I come to my front screen, I can click on this straight away and it takes me into the report. So how do we do that? So what I'll do is if I go back to the screen here, on this screen here, on the very first screen, when you click on reports, you do have the ability to click on the little edit button in the top right. And you'll see here that I can delete my favorites, because this is what they're called. They're called favorites. Or I can add new favorites to my front screen. So there's common dashboards that you're going to. It may be, it's the call queues dashboard that you use in Teams, for example. You can create a quick link or a favorite. And what that then does is when you come into the dashboards, you have a quick link here that you simply click on and it will take you there. If not, you can always come on the left-hand side, go to details, and then, we're going to be looking at the call information report here. So what we need to do is go through what the parameters mean for this particular report. So we're going to look at the parameters over here. So as in all of our reports, we have the ability to search between a particular date. So you can tick the dates here, the from and the to. Or there is a date button that sits underneath these the calendars, and you can click on this and you can choose a set of predefined dates. So for what I'm looking at, I'm going to look at May. So I'm going to click on my dates button and go to May because that's what I'm looking at here. The next one here is the time zone. So what does the time zone mean? So what this does is this time shifts all your calls. So for example, if somebody in your US office or someone in your Tokyo office wants a report, what you would want to do is time shift this to be in their time zone. Because obviously if I make a call now at 10 o'clock, it's going to be 10 o'clock my time, UTC, but it won't be 10 o'clock in New York, for example. So what you would need to do is choose their time zone that they're in, and then that will then time shift it to show the correct time and not your time. So 99% of the time, you probably will never need to change it, but the ability is there if you need to. So what if you want to do times that are in between a certain hour? So let's say we want to do it between working hours. So I can come in here and go between 9 and 6 o'clock. So I want all calls between these hours. Or I can exclude them. So I can say, don't give me calls that are within those hours.
I was about to say, often people actually want to look outside. What am I missing when the office isn't open?
You can create two reports. I can click generate of the ones that are not between those hours, and then I can come in here and do the same and go, right, so what are we looking at in the difference?
In hours, out of hours.
Yep, and we're going to be looking at how many calls are we missing in store A because we're not opening till 7 o'clock, for example. Okay, so is it that if we open up an extra hour that we're going to see that we're going to take a few extra sales by doing that?
Yeah.
You could choose your CDR source. So this is looking at which source that you want to look at. So again, you can come in here and choose your specific CDR source. It's up to you. If you don't set it, the same as on all of these, if you don't set any of these settings, it will default to have everything. Okay.
Everything that you have permissions to.
Yeah, everything that you have permission to. So I'm just going to reset this back to have everything in X.
I think that's a point of note. If you're an administrator, clearly you will get everything.
Yeah.
But if your profile's been set up, you might be a department head, you might only see your department. This doesn't supersede any of the other security.
No. So when, for example, and that's a very good point, if you're a lockdown account and you come into this part here, so the next part we're going to look at, when we go into the directory items, you'll only see what you have been granted to see. Okay. So how do I then use the report? So there are two clear ways of filtering out this report to show information. You can use the tree tab, and you can do a search for a particular person to look for all their calls. So I'm going to just search for Matt, and I can go and choose that person, because that's who I want to go and look at. Or I can choose the whole of service management. Or I could say, right, I want the whole of service management, get rid of that, but I also want to see Amy's calls as well. Okay, so you can mix and match by doing departments and users in here. But let's say you don't actually know who owns the phone. Okay, so you've been given a group of phone numbers to run a report on. So I use an example, and an NHS trust, what it is they've got 3 or 4 phone numbers that they want to run a report on. So what you can also do is click over to what we call the endpoints over here, and then you can filter on these individual columns to look for them. So it could be, you want to search for department. So you've still got the ability over here to search for a department. So if I want to see all my service management departments, I can filter, and I'll be able to see all the phones that are available in here. But the difference being now is I can choose the phones individually, okay, rather than then having to pick a name or a department. I can actually pick the phone numbers that I want to look for.
But in this scenario, because you've narrowed it down, we have to know from a directory point of view that that phone is associated to service management.
Correct, yeah. So again, you can then filter on a particular phone over here. So I can say, right, this is the number I'm looking for, 2021. Okay, now you'll see then I've got nothing coming up, and I'm going, why is that? And that's because I've got the filter over here as well. So I can go, right, actually, I need to clear that filter. And now it's coming up with my phone. So I want to look.
And in this scenario, because you're now not filtering to a department, it would appear even if it was unallocated?
No, it has to be allocated to a department to be able to search for it in here. So you can then search for another number, and then you can then keep searching for all the numbers that you want to run a report on. Okay, so I'm going to keep searching. I'm going to add these in. So what I've now got is 5 numbers. It tells me at the top here I've got 5 numbers that I'm going to go and run a report on. So there are, as I said, 2 ways of doing it, and you can mix and match as well if you want to. So you can have endpoints and you can have tree items selected. Mix and matching is absolutely fine in here as well. Okay, but again, like the quick search, this just allows you to quickly search for a number, put it in here, and then you can click generate at the top. And what I'm going to do is just click generate to show you what the data then looks like. So I've searched for 5 numbers here.
It's quite nice that that indicator's there throughout telling you.
Yeah, so it will then show me 2304, which is one of the ones I looked for, 2021, which is the ones, and it will give me all of the calls here. All the itemized calls. It doesn't look, it looks for incoming, internal, outgoing calls. It will show tandem calls as well, and I'll come to that in a few minutes. So once you've selected your report, or the numbers that you want to run a report on, you can look at whether you want to look at cost, wholesale or retail. It will mainly be on cost. I want to look at my top 250 calls for those numbers, or just be careful that you may want to set it to all. So if you want all calls for those numbers, you must select all here, okay? And it does tell you on the report here what you've got selected. So if it says top 250 and then you're looking going, well, I've only got 250 calls on my report, it's probably because you haven't changed it to here. Now, this report is not designed to do, hundreds of thousands of pages, okay? So just remember to keep that in mind. That's why there is this top thing added on, okay? But, you can have all calls on here if you wish to. It could be as well is that they've come to you and said, right, we just want to see all of our outgoing calls for those users. Okay, so in here, you can come into your direction. You can choose, I just want to see all the outgoing calls. I can click generate then, and it will then just show me all my outgoing calls here for those phone numbers that I've selected. And then if I wish to, I can then export it as a PDF. I can put it as an Excel file from here. Even if you want to, you can create it straight as a Word document. Most commonly, yes, PDF is the one that you would send then to the end user. So again, you can filter on direction. If you don't select one, it will assume you want all 4 directions. Outcomes.
What would be a sort of real life example where you might want directions?
So it could be that, literally they want to see all that,
Costed calls, maybe, so
calls,
outgoing.
Yeah, so they want to see their top calls. So when you go to the sort by at the bottom here, you could have a sort it on the cost. Okay, so I want to look at my most expensive, my longest outgoing calls, etc. in here. So, when you get to the sorting at the bottom, that then can become an important part. So give me my top 100 most expensive calls for those, those numbers that I've selected. Okay. So that's the direction. Outcome. So maybe you only want to see connected calls or not connected calls. Again, you can select these. Again, if you don't select it, it will assume you want all of them. Then we come into these initiating and terminating reasons. Now, going back to the get started page, there is actually a full document that explains what an initiating reason, what a terminating reason is. Okay, so there's a nice diagrams explaining what they are. So with the initiating and terminating reasons here, an initiating reason is why did it come to that phone? Okay, so it's an inquiry. So somebody did an inquiry to that phone and then they spoke to them and then it was transferred. Okay, so that's why it left the phone. So the initiating reason is why it came. The terminating reason is why it left the phone. Normal just means it was ringing or the person picked up the phone or the person hung up the phone here. So you can do a filter on these, but again, it's best to go and look at the document, explains them all in here if you're not quite sure what they mean. We have the ability to also search for a charged party. Now, what is a charged party? A lot of you may have seen this in Prism before, and maybe you're asking yourself, well, what is it? So a charged party is for who do you want to, in this report, who do you want to pay for a particular call? Okay, so let's say I put my phone on divert to my mobile, okay, and then Richard rings my desk phone, so he rings my 4-digit extension, 2021, and then it rings my mobile. Now, on your report, it may show that Richard rang my mobile, and Richard's now getting the charge for that call. Well, Richard didn't know that he was ringing a mobile.
It actually happened the other day.
Yeah, Richard dialed 2021. So why is it coming up on his bill when he gets it? He goes, well, I didn't ring that to mobile. I didn't dial that. I dialed 2021. So what you can do is you can turn on this charge party to say, right, we want them to charge that call to the person who generated the cost. So it was me, I generated it. I know I forwarded my mobile. So what this does is just essentially it assigns the calls correctly to the person who generated the costed part. So if you're really interested in cost, that's what the charge party does. Now, to help you understand this, right, there are some additional columns you can add to this report, okay? And these are really useful columns that you can add into this report. So you've got the transfer columns. So if I'm doing, a direction of inbound, for example, and I want to see who all these calls are transferred to or transferred from, I can add the additional columns, the transfer columns, and click generate. And it will now show me 2 extra columns on the right-hand side to say, right, that call was not picked up, it was redirected and was redirected to 8007. This one was picked up and transferred to 2249. This one was, picked up and there. This one was transferred from 2021 into that phone number here. So 2 additional columns on the same report just by simply coming in and enabling these additional columns.
Of course, now you can export this into a usable format.
Yeah. and provide it to them, because maybe that's the question is, we just want to see what's going on with this phone.
Yeah.
So like the quick search, you've got the ability to come into your directory items, search for phone number, assuming it's in the directory, add on your extra column with your transfer ones, run it, PDF it, send it to the end user to answer their question. It could be you want the charge column. So this is where this charge party is important. And what it does is it then explains who should pay for that call. So it gives context around who should be paying for that call. So it could be that, the person who made the call here, actually that number, the person who's paying for it, is different to the person who actually made the call. Okay. We probably don't have one in here as an example, but here. This one here, that you can see, that was a call to Barry. Anyway, that's how it would work. You'd see that the calling digits would be different to the charged ones. This is how you can show who paid for the call. And it may be if you're doing inbound stats, so maybe, one of the contact center agents wanted all of their calls for that particular day, you can add in the response time columns as well. So these give more context around how quickly you are answering the calls, okay? So in here, you'll get the additional response times in addition to the ring time as well. So again, one report, but you can actually add or remove columns depending on what the users want.
And again, to the point, you could remove some of these other columns if you didn't want it to be a big, long.
The columns are fixed here.
At the start, but I mean, all these extra ones you're adding, you can be more. You might want to add a lot to begin with, and then you can be quite specific and go, right, that's the one that's got the information I need in, because you're just bringing it up on screen.
Correct.
Once you've got it then you can start taking things away again. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, you can then sort by what's my, I want to send it to them with the longest talk time, with the, with who it was transferred to, with transferred from. So you've got all the abilities to sort them on these as well.
And that's fantastic, because let's be honest, when people come to you asking for this type of report, they probably got a purpose in mind.
Yeah.
And it likely is it's in that list of purposes.
Yeah, exactly. And it could be then as well, if it's more difficult for them, just, you can export as an Excel.
Yeah.
They can potentially go and resort it themselves anyway.
I mean, it depends who it's going to, right?
Correct.
If it's some managers might want a PDF.
Yeah.
But again, if it's going to a data team so they can do deeper analysis, maybe they want to pull it into Power BI. Maybe, Excel's the way.
Yeah, definitely. So once you've got these reports as well, as I said, we can export them. Or it could be then that they keep coming back to you every week and go, right, I want the same report again. Can you do it for me for last week? Well, schedule it. Go over here, follow the schedule. We've covered this on previous Ask the Expert, how to schedule it.
You can do it daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly.
It could be as well, we do this a lot. It could be that at 6:30 in the evening, they want a report for the previous day. The sales manager wants an itemized calls of all the outbound calls that the sales team have made.
Yeah.
It's possible to do it. You just, you can set it up to output that level of information.
Yeah, I think something that's worth noting, and again, we've covered alerts a couple of times before. We'll probably do them again next year as well.
Yeah.
Depending on what you're trying to do, an alert might actually be the better option. So, for example, if you want to see how many if you want to look at missed calls, it might be better that actually an alert once an hour to say these are all the calls you've missed is actually a better solution. So I think this is fantastic, but be conscious, depending on what your mission is, what you're trying to achieve, there are other aspects of Prism that may be more appropriate.
Yeah, and just as a side note here, there is also the ability to print this as well. So obviously be careful, being sensitive data potentially, when you are printing these, just be a bit careful of where you're printing them to, etc. But there is also the ability to print from the screen as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, Matt. Let's go back to the pack. There's been a few questions. I've answered them as we've gone through, so thank you for the interactions there. I've popped the link in the chat there actually to the next Ask the Expert. So that we are doing 21st of October. It's sort of our end of year review. We've done it the last couple of years where we'll look at the top features we've released this year. So we will touch on the quick search again. A lot more people will have it by then. We're also going to do a few sneak peeks of what's coming in 2027. But again, to my point, when you get the feedback form, or you can email me, Matt, Sharon, customer success, if there's something you specifically want to see, we can potentially add it into that session this year. But further, into next year, we run 4 of these every year. If there's things you want to see, please do let us know.
Yeah, and just going back to the pit stops as well, they're going to become available to you. So you come and join Sharon there, and ask for questions there if it's something that is keeping you up at night and you want to try and get it answered. Then look, we are here and available to you to answer these questions. We're just trying to find different ways to get into you guys to to answer these questions for you.
Yeah, and if you don't receive the communication offering here's our lounge, Prism Lounge, it might be that you've opted out at some point of communication. So if you're not receiving mails from Tiger, let us know. We can change your opt-in, opt-out preferences so that you can actually start being notified. And we've expanded it recently, so actually you can choose more that I just want the service-focused type items, or I want the sales items, or I want the marketing items. But from a service point of view, these are the things we offer: the Ask the Experts, the lounge access. Service notifications are different. You will receive those regardless. If there's going to be a planned outage, for example. But yeah, let us know if you're not receiving comms and you want to start receiving them again, and we can change your preferences for you.
Perfect.
All right, that's it for today. Thank you, everyone. And again, just that reminder, appreciate the attendance today. Hopefully you've all learned something today and you've taken something away from this. We have a team of people here. You can see our passion for Prism. We love to talk about it. We love for our customers to get the most out of it. So get in touch if there's something else you want to see, or if there's anything you want us to dive into a little bit more detail from today. You'll get the survey when you exit the WebEx. Any topics, pop them in there, and please do leave us your feedback.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time today to join us.
Thank you very much, everyone. Enjoy the continued good weather.
Yeah, thank you.